we are. All spelled out. It's the FOX6 Sports Blitz. Lily's out. Tim Van Born, Brandon Cruz. We appreciate your company, wrapping up your holiday weekend with us. We have all kinds of fireworks to talk about this week in sports. Let's give you our starting lineup where we have some probing questions to answer. What might have been in the Damian Lillard Bucks era? What might be in the future as the team miles away from team contention? When it comes to the Brewers, only one? When it comes to professional sports, is it worth the gamble? And there is no question that our latest high school hotshot knows the long suit is helping him in the long run. People are scratching their heads. What are they all going to talk about with that stuff? Let's just start very simply with the release of Damian Lillard, the acquisition of Miles Turner, and a whole passel of Bucks moves. Before we get into the details, I'm going to ask each of you for 15 seconds on how you would summarize what the Bucks have done.
A large flurry, but I don't know how much substance is there. I think they made a lot of moves. They cleared a lot of money and space, but I don't know if they solved all the problems that they had last year in reaching the playoffs and not advancing farther.
All right.
I think John Horst is doing his best to keep Giannis Antetokounmpo in town, keep him happy, and he does so by bringing in Miles Turner from the Pacers. We'll talk about all of that, but I think the Bucks had to swing for the fences and get a guy, and when you have Dame, who's injured, most likely out in the entirety of next season, what do you do with that money? We saw what the Bucks did with that money, and that is to reallocate it and bring in a new player.
I think you guys are both right on to a lot of things. I have to say, though, I'm flabbergasted. Going into this offseason, I didn't think the Bucks could do much of anything. They have done all kinds of things. Let's pick apart the move that opens up the salary cap space and the finances, and that is the release of Damian Lillard. After a mere 2 years here, he's going to get his money. I don't understand this monstrous sympathy kick for Damian Lillard. He's going to get all his money. He's going to be able to pick his next team. It's just not the chapter that the Bucks and Lillard were expecting when he came here.
No, and that's the thing. It was underwhelming, partly because of injuries, but also it took a long time for him and Giannis to get on the same page and really click on the court. And I'm sure that they were getting there and they were on the way, but then the injury at the end with his Achilles really kind of determined his fate, I think, because of how much money was out there for him and how old he is and where this team is trying to go. It was a very creative way to move forward, to create more cap space, and to give him a chance to further his career somewhere where he wants, and it gives the Bucks a chance to try to make something happen now and in the near future with Giannis. So to me, it was the right move. It was very surprising. I did not foresee this happening, but I think for all parties involved, this was the right move, and now everybody can move forward and try to make the best for themselves.
Certainly a very skilled offensive player. Certainly gave it his effort here in Milwaukee to try to make this work, Lily. The injury that Brandon referenced, though, at the tail end makes a large pill a little easier to swallow, I think, in the big picture.
Yeah, and I think this Bucks team was looking at the fact that, okay, the playoffs didn't go how we wanted them to go, but we'll have Dame and Giannis back next season. But, oh no, they won't. Dame will be out the entirety of next season after, of course, you see right there going down. He's going to tear his Achilles, has to have surgery on it. And it's just kind of crazy, the offseason of, torn Achilles that we've seen in the NBA in the playoffs. But for Dame, he just kind of sits there knowing that this is it. I mean, I'm done for a majority of next season. And it just is unfortunate because you thought about the reality of, okay, Giannis and Dame, potentially a third season. They're kind of starting to click more in this second year. What can they do on the court next year together? But that's never going to come to fruition. Not a lot of playoff success whatsoever, I think, with this duo, which is just unfortunate. And we talked about kind of the big three, the big four a couple years ago, and now just Giannis, the lone man standing now with Dame out. But just kind of stinks. This is the way that Dame's career ends in Milwaukee. He gave it his all coming to Titletown or to Wisconsin, and just kind of making the best of a situation that he probably didn't want to be in the first place. But big professional, big leader in the locker room. He'll be missed, but I think the Bucks did make the right move.
Did make the big move. Okay, what about the move at center, Brandon? Brooke Lopez departs via free agency. Miles Turner, surprisingly, is arriving via free agency.
And I think this is a good move. I don't think you're upgrading too much, but you are in age and in stamina. I mean, you have a younger player who can shoot from outside. He can fill the lane as well. He's very good with block shots, something that you saw with Brooke Lopez. I think because of his age, it's a better fit for the Bucks right now. So I think they slightly upgraded there, and I think this was also a surprise move. But with what's happened to Indy, you realize that, wait a minute, with the Pacers losing Tyrese Halliburton for almost all of next season, this opened up a chance for him to move to a place where they might be able to compete for a title, or at least push into the playoffs. And so when you see that, you're kind of like, wow, okay, Brook Lopez is gone. He fills this role. I like the move. I think it's a slight upgrade.
Tonight, ESPN.com is reporting the Bucks kind of re-signed, but actually sign off the free agent market, Ryan Rollins, so he would be back in Milwaukee on a 3-year deal. After that, it's kind of Oprah Winfrey. You get a 2-year deal, you get a 2-year, you get a 2-year, everybody gets a 2-year deal. Bucks are making a run at this. What does it do for the most important Buck, and that's Giannis Antetokounmpo?
Hopefully keeps him in town, right? I think what the Bucks wanted to do there in terms of the money was to get Miles Turner in town. That's what you see with all these vet minimums. But what you're trying to do is appease Giannis Antetokounmpo. And there were reports out there that Giannis wanted Miles Turner to come to Milwaukee. He was kind of recruiting Miles to come to town and see what the pairing could do. But I think you add an athletic center with Giannis, another guy who's a good shooter, a guy who can block shots. Of course, rebounding is something he's going to work on. But you add a younger guy to a team where the Bucks are trending in the direction of just going younger and getting guys that can shoot. So you're hoping that this is a move with Miles Turner and the return of Gary Trent Jr., Taurean Prince, KPJ. These are guys that Giannis has played with, he's comfortable with, and you're hoping these guys are the ones that Giannis can kind of build around as the Bucks try to make a run this season.
Has John Horst slept in the last month? I mean, did he go to an accounting class? The numbers, his world just has to be so far away from just pure basketball evaluation.
Well, the creativity is amazing. And to figure all these paths out, to be able to put together a roster that's competitive. And right now the East is wide open. So anything he can do to build this roster and make it bigger is huge. I think the one thing he still needs to do is get a big-time scorer to fill the void that you're getting with the loss of Damian Lillard. I think they need somebody who could put 20 or more points in every night.
Would you try Bradley Beal on a low-money deal if he can?
1 year, why not? Why not for 1 year?
Why not?
There we go. All right. Ryan Rollins isn't your answer at point guard, or you think he's a point guard guy and you bring in somebody else to score?
But I don't think he's giving you 20 to 25 a night.
Gotcha. Okay, very good. Well, look at some of the dignitaries of Milwaukee. They're right in that vision. The Bucs season, not that far away when you think about it, but you know what season is on right now? That is the Milwaukee Brewers season, and it has had a lot of positives this season. It gets one today from a baseball standpoint. Lily also just from an emotional standpoint. Brandon Woodruff is back for the first time since 2023. That's a victory in and of itself. But then he goes out and pitches tremendously against the Marlins. Yeah,
this was a return, like 2 years in the making, right? I think we were kind of getting there. Oh, Brandon Woodruff is back, but the ankle. Oh, Brandon Woodruff is close, but the liner to the elbow. But he's finally back, guys. And he looks like the Brandon Woodruff of the past. The velocity not up there just quite yet, but what the stuff was working. It was Brandon Woodruff, a 1-2-3 first inning, and he was phenomenal on the mound. And I think, he came into it really with no expectations, but the expectation of having Brandon Woodruff back is having a really, really solid starter go deep in a game for you. And having him back just rejuvenized the team. You saw the guys all out there, when he was pitching in that first inning, just watching him intently, knowing what he's going to be able to do on the mound. I know he was emotional being out there, just saying to pitch in front of his family, his kids. But the wait is over. Big Lou is back, and it's nice to have him back, guys.
Well, the Brewers will certainly take him. Let's talk about some starting pitchers here. Brandon Woodruff goes today. I'm speaking of Brandon Cruz now. That's our segue. Woodruff goes today. Freddie Peralta tomorrow. He's the only all-star on the Brewers. Is that appropriate?
It is. I mean, look at this team offensively. They've done it collectively, but individually, you don't have anybody that's jumping out. Nobody's really above 300 with their batting average. You don't have a ton of home runs. Christian Yelich is your leader there, but it took him a little while to get going, and now he is into a rhythm. You have a Sal Frelick who's hitting close to 300, but he hasn't had the consistency in this road trip. You just look around. The only real consistent player right now that you could say is Freddie Peralta. Now, you might have an argument for Trevor McGill because he's made 20 saves. He's really been solid on that end. But there are a number of closers in baseball that you can argue have earned it ahead of him. So to me, Freddie Peralta is the right choice. And he is a guy that is shown this year. We've talked about it week in and week out, that he's settled in as the ace, and he seems to just enjoy having that responsibility, and he delivers every time out, especially at home.
Especially at home is right, and then he goes against the Dodgers, a big test this week for the Brewers. What about Jacob Mizorowski, who's going to go in the second game of this series against some guy named Clayton Kershaw, who's an all-star pick as a legend. Mizorowski coming off his first major league rough outing.
And listen, every rookie's not going to have a perfect game every game out, right? But I mean, his June was simply spectacular in his 3 starts. But yeah, he did get roughed up against The Mets, and it was 3 2/3 innings, 5 runs that he gave up there. And listen, he's a young pitcher. He's going to make mistakes. It's going to happen. The Mets are still a good team. But I think he's a kid who can just kind of flush this performance, learn from it. But no, this is not going to happen every single time I'm out there on the mound. He's hoping that doesn't happen against the Dodgers because they can certainly make him pay. So we know the stuff works for Mizorowski. We know the velocity is up there for him. It's just a matter of kind of settling down, knowing, all right, it didn't work out the last time I was out there, but I had a really good June. Let's build off that.
Let's build off that. There are a lot of positives he has in his arsenal at this point for sure. Dodgers had a really rough weekend against the Astros. They have not had many rough weekends or rough stretches this season at all. They are in here for the Brewers this week. And Rhys Hoskins is not going to be going against them. He's headed to the injured list. He's been a little mercurial this year, but it's a big bat to take and a big leader to take out of the lineup.
It is. And I think he was a guy that was, even though he's hitting 5th or 6th, depending on the night, he was a guy that they were looking to. And he had provided some power, 12 home runs to this point, and defensively he's a guy. But the biggest part that I think he brings is that leadership. So he's going to be around the clubhouse, but I also think that it helps for them that they have the All-Star break after next Sunday to give him a little time. It also gives Jake Bauers a chance to get more time in there and have more consistent at-bats. And we saw today he had a couple of hits. He's a guy that seems to be chomping at the bit for opportunity. It's now here.
And that has been the situation in Milwaukee. Position players and pitchers get up. Hey, if you start doing the job, you might have a chance. Anthony Sigler is here now. Andrew Vaughn, it seems like, is coming up from the minors to take the roster spot here for Hoskins. This is the time of year when you need some steadying influences. So Rhys Hoskins not being in there will be something to watch for sure. Garrett Mitchell's not going to be there, and now we know officially he's not going to be here all season long. How star-crossed is this guy's career?
Oh, it's just it's such a bummer. I think we all know what talented of a player he is, but just the injury luck has not been good for Garrett Mitchell. Of course, he was the opening day starter at center field, and he has a left oblique strain that he's coming back from, and then he injures his shoulder, and now needs shoulder surgery. So he's targeting spring training of next season coming back, but kind of snake bitten there for Garrett Mitchell, and it's really tough to see.
Roll the dice on what's left of his career, and that leads us to our commercial break coming up here on the Fox 6 Sports Blitz. When we come back, a former Buck is in the news for some not good reasons. What does it mean in the big picture? Stay tuned.
A little while ago we were talking about the new look Bucks and how they're moving forward. Well, it's time to go backwards a little to the time when Malik Beasley was with this team. Now, he had some huge moments. He had some games that really showed what he could do on the court. But what we're hearing now is he's under investigation, allegedly, for gambling on games that he was involved in while a member of the Bucks. First and foremost, how concerning is it to the Bucks organization that one of their players was allegedly involved in this kind of activity?
I think it is concerning. He has outstanding debts that he's had to pay back in Milwaukee to people who gave him loans. That's established. That's not even alleged. So that's a concern. Malik Beasley was in the three-point shooting contest. He was a high enough profile player. I think the Bucks, but to a larger extent, the NBA has to get its arms around this problem like yesterday. You cannot have this stuff continue at all to have any semblance of integrity in the game. There's so much betting around the game now, you cannot have any suspicion of players on the court or on the field or whatever it might be to maintain credibility in your sport.
Yeah, gambling has always been around sports from the inception. It's human nature in many ways, but now it's organized gambling, and now you have networks that are owned by gambling entities. But you look at what he allegedly did. Will he play again in the NBA, do you think? Because we've seen a former Piston, or Toronto Raptor, not be able to play again.
Yeah, Jonte Porter, banned from the NBA last April, I believe. And that's the interesting thing. I think if they do find Malik Beasley guilty, I think that is the direction they have to go, just to set a precedent of, we've done it before, we can do it again. And it just is disappointing to see if, again, he does get charged, because, again, he was going to be one of the top free agents in the market this year. He was probably going to sign a big $42 million deal with the Pistons. Played really well for them this past season. But I do believe if they do find him guilty, if they do charge him, that's potentially the route we could go, and we might not see Malik Beasley play in the NBA anymore.
Is there a reason why we haven't heard anybody step up for him other than his agent? And his agent didn't necessarily deny these allegations either.
Yeah, his agent basically said, well, that's not a charge, it's an investigation, which is correct. I think it's a hot potato right now. I don't think anybody's going to step up, even if you wanted to step up for Malik Beasley. Everybody backing away from that story right now. Same thing in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, it's crazy. Luis Ortiz allegedly gambled. What is the solution? How does baseball? How does basketball? How do sports stay away because they are so invested now in gambling?
Oh, that's tough. I mean, it's just, I think, up to the player to not try to get themselves embroiled in anything like this, right? In terms of Malik Beasley, if he was gambling, that's something you can't do. But I think in Luis Ortiz's case, it was, they're looking at 2 pitches that had unusually high bets, and those are the 2 pitches they're investigating to maybe see if he was kind of predicting the outcome of said pitches. Maybe, right? Maybe. And so it's just things you can't do. So you, as an athlete, you have to know, listen, this could be enticing, but we know it cannot be done if I want to keep playing and I don't want to get in trouble. But it is hard to monitor because, if this is happening, guys are trying to make money in other ways and they're trying to get away with it, but eventually it's going to come to light and it's something you can't do. And
he's on paid leave through the All-Star break. If the investigation goes on, that would extend, and then it was a firm that notices these betting trends that notified Major League Baseball. It'll be an interesting watch for both of those situations and to see how teams handle their athletes as in terms of gambling. Well, we have plenty more to come here on the Fox 6 Sports Blitz, including our next high school hotshot, so stay with us.
Welcome back. As we celebrate the 4th of July, this track athlete gained his understanding of patriotism by visiting the local VFW with his grandparents for Sheep's Head Games. And you'll want to hear this story. Here's this week's Fox 6 High School Hotshot.
Hi, my name's Aaron Cloth. I'm a senior graduate from Oconomowoc and I run track and field. Yeah, I get cloth a lot. Pretty much ever since I heard my name over a speaker in elementary school, it's always been cloth, but it's cloth. I ran track here at Oconomowoc all 4 years of high school, and then I also ran a little bit of club track out in Milwaukee, going to state sophomore, junior, and senior year, which was just amazing. I'm actually wearing the shirt from senior year. To be a sophomore on the biggest stage in your state is just a surreal experience. Ended up going for the 4x2. We took 3rd place and broke the school record, which is just absolutely amazing. And then we went back junior year for the 4x1, broke the school record there again. Then senior year, it was I'd say it's my favorite experience at state so far. I know freshman year, me looking up at the school record board, I was like, I want to be up there. Just reading them almost like they've stamped their name in Oconomowoc school history, and I kind of just wanted the same piece of that. Where we're standing right now, it just has to do with I'd say my family has a patriotic bone to them. Just everything around me has always been red, white, and blue. Just from being down at the VFW for family gatherings, whether it just be to hang out or putting up flags with my grandpa on Memorial Day, it did instill that patriotic bone like I mentioned earlier. Well, obviously 4th of July I'd just say is my favorite holiday to begin with. Obviously I'm a big firework guy, so we got a little bit of that in there. But it's just how people come together is what I really like to see. After high school, I will be going to the Marines. I've had a plethora of just great role models in my family, and all of them come from some sort of military background. Grandpa, Marines, his brother, also Marines. Got an Uncle Dale, Navy, Uncle Roger, Navy. So we're standing in Oconomowoc, American Legion Post 91, with Edwin L. Jones. That's what I'm hoping to gain over time, is that understanding the rich history that these places have within them. We wouldn't have any of this without the people that sacrificed their lives for us, so I'm just trying to play a part in the country. I'm Aaron Cloth. I'm a senior graduate from Oconomowoc High School, 3-time state qualifier, and I'll be heading to the Marines. And on this week's Fox 6 High School Hotshot.
Well, that family history is pretty cool. Meanwhile, Aaron is not completely sure what his life path will be, but he could very well see himself as a career Marine who would serve his country as long as possible. We'll be right back.
Before they get to the All-Star break, the Brewers host the Dodgers and Nationals, who fired their manager and GM today.
And then it's a big weekend for Major League Baseball. Their draft begins on Sunday in Atlanta, part of the All-Star Week schedule.
And guess what? Bucks Summer League play tips off Thursday against the Nuggets. On Saturday, they're going to face the Cavs and then finish out the week against the Clippers on Sunday.
It's the time of year you always look at those rosters. Who are these guys? You'll like to see them. Absolutely. Hey, we appreciate you joining us tonight. I hope you had a great holiday weekend. We'll see you all again next Sunday.